see Heather McDonald, James O'Keefe, and Sheriff David Clark at Freedom Summit 2018. Get your tickets at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Dan and Amy, and I referenced this before, but I just want to put an exclamation point after it. This is a wonderful piece in the leftist Daily Beast. Tasha Rain, the porn star teaching frat boys about consent. It's a wonderful porn star with a heart of gold story because, of course, as the D.C. Press Corps and Hollywood know, the best way to teach men to respect women and women to respect themselves is to elevate porn stars.
You know, it's a different take on an old topic, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe this time she'll get through.
Right. Yeah. No, sure. I mean, of course, it's Pretty Woman in real life. Of course it is.
A lot of people pledging this year.
Vote for Our Lives, which is a adjunct of March for Our Lives. This is the Parkland gun banning students cause celeb, right?
You have got to turn up your radios and pay attention to this ad.
The cast for Avengers cut an ad, very much in keeping with sort of the Tasha Rain approach to getting to young people.
And they also threw in a few Parkland survivors.
Yeah, David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez.
Yeah, they're in there too. And here you go.
My first time,
I was nervous.
My first time
was in the back of a firehouse.
Mine was in a church.
It was amazing.
My first time, everybody clapped afterwards.
I mean, I didn't know how to do it.
where to put it, you know, where to slide it in.
There were so many options.
Like,
You never know what it's going to be like when you do it.
So finally, I just went and I just did it. I voted.
My first time with
they're talking about voting. I see
good,
what they did there.
My parents.
Yeah, but the left keeps harping, you have to respect women and we have to end this sexual discrimination. And then they're doing a ad like that.
Aren't
That's
they
very
clever?
sexual in nature. A lot of sexual innuendos in it.
Aren't they clever? They're so cool. I'd be willing to suspend my ability to think critically and wrap my entire identity around them if they would just let me be part of their crew. Right?
Sorry, honey.
Boy,
You don't make enough money.
From rock the vote to this. For more on this topic, as well as Beach Party Kavanaugh, we're pleased to be joined by Ed Morrissey, who's the senior editor for HotAir.com, columnist for the week. Ed, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be on with you guys, as always.
How about that? The combination of the GOTV effort for young people with the March for Our Lives crew, and then you got Tasha Rain, the porn star, teaching frat boys how to acquire consent in a male-female situation.
Yeah, it's classy. You know, yesterday I got an email from some public relations firm about a new comic book that just came out that has Stormy Daniels as the hero. With the dramatic, heroic pose on the cover, and I mean, I actually downloaded it just because I thought they can't be serious about this, and unfortunately, they were very serious about it.
If you oppose Trump, then that's your first step towards heroism.
Apparently.
Last night, President Trump, I think he stepped in it when he called out Christine Blasey Ford and talked about she had one beer, and I felt that he was mocking her in a way. What kind of ramifications are this going to have, especially when it goes to the Senate floor for a vote?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this is really impolitic, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, certainly you can make an argument about Ford's credibility in that testimony, but I mean, he's clearly making fun of it too, and then you can do that. There's no law against it, but I think it's an unwise move at a point in time where you're trying to hold together three very tricky votes in the Republican caucus for Kavanaugh, and it's three people who A, don't really like Trump all that much, and B, are extremely sensitive to the idea of attacking someone who's alleging that they are a victim of sexual assault. And, I mean, certainly it may come out that Trump is entirely correct about this, but it doesn't look good. And I think that, in politics, appearances do matter. And it's better, I think, for Trump to have stuck to the line that he'd been sticking to in public, which is that, I want the Senate to do its job. I want it to have whatever resources it needs to have to get it done. I just want it to get it done quickly and have them make a decision. And other than that, I'm not going to comment. And so that type of thing really doesn't help. I mean, it just really obstructs the process of getting there.
I want to talk about Jeff Flake. Is there anybody in the Senate Republican caucus under the age of 85 who could take this guy into the Senate cloakroom and straighten him out, if you know what I mean? I mean, he's just intolerable to listen to all week while he, gets squired around to all the cool places to hang out with Chris Coons and all of his D.C. press corps friends. And now he's making the temperament argument. I mean, honestly, this is so absurd. I would rather cast my lot with red state Democrats in terms of getting to 50 votes than worrying about what Jeff Flake's latest gambit is going to be.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, of course, is that you're not going to get any red state Democrats to come along unless you get 50 votes out of the Republicans. And so you can lose Jeff Flake, but then you can't lose Collins or Murkowski. If you don't get any of those three, you're not going to find two red state Democrats to cross the aisle in order to get to 50 votes so that Mike Pence can cast a tie-breaking vote. It's just not going to happen.
What do you think about what do you think about Graham's idea that if go ahead, vote it. If we've come up a vote or two short, then make the November 6th election a referendum on this, and red state Democrats like Manchin and Heitkamp and McCaskill and others are going to be toast and renominate him after that.
I don't think you renominate somebody who's already been shot down by a floor vote in the Senate. I think, first off, if I was Brett Kavanaugh, I'd absolutely refuse to do it. I mean, why would you go through that all over again? He's got a job on the appellate court. There's no reason to go through all of that all over again. They would move on to a different candidate. Lindsey Graham is making a provocative argument there, but Kavanaugh certainly wouldn't go through with it, and I don't think Trump would either. I think they would wisely move on to Amy Coney Barrett and demand that all the people who didn't vote for Kavanaugh because he's supposedly he's got toxic masculinity, therefore fall in line behind Amy Coney Barrett.
Oh, well, yeah, but she's got toxic Catholicity. She's going to be characterized as a theocrat who's going to, impose a national religion. You can guarantee that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, they casted her that way in her confirmation hearing to the appellate court.
Mm-hmm.
This was the dogma lives loudly within you moment from Dianne Feinstein that blew up in their faces a bit.
Well,
but I mean, that's what they're going to wind up doing. They're going to end up going to Amy Coney Barrett, and that's the real shove it down your throat move. Because they could go to Thomas Hardiman, who was also a shortlister, who is apparently a little bit more popular among senators. But Trump being who he is, he would pick Barrett just to shove it back down their throats and say, I dare you to do this again, because if you do, it's going to be very, very apparent what you're up to.
Well, it isn't over yet for Brett Kavanaugh, so that's good.
No.
But why in the world, and I know, Dan, I asked him this question earlier, why isn't the FBI sitting down with Christine Ford and talking to her?
I think that's a good question. I think that I think that you can argue, and I think the White House argued that she gave her sworn testimony in front of the Senate. So she was questioned at length by Rachel Mitchell, and so the FBI can just simply work off of that. I mean, this is not an investigation; this is a background check, and that's something that people seem to be forgetting. Is that all they're really doing is collecting witness statements and then providing them to the Senate Judiciary Committee. This is the reason why Chuck Grassley was saying an FBI probe is not a deus ex machina. This is basically the Senate Judiciary is capable of doing exactly what the FBI is doing right now.
But the only difference now, though, is in terms of the FBI questioning Ms. Ford, is you have a rebuttal witness in her ex-boyfriend's statement.
Well, yes, and that's true. So, with this statement, which apparently just came in yesterday, the FBI might want to go back and ask her about that to find out what her responses to that are. This is the reason why I was a little surprised to see that Dr. Ford's attorneys were insisting that the FBI interrogate her or take her statement, I guess is a better way of putting it. It's because I don't see any upside for her in that. They're going to start asking about some of the contradictions that came up in the testimony, and I don't think that's very helpful to Dr. Ford. I don't see how she's going to help herself by trying to elaborate on a story that's already been changing in some of the details.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
we've had
I think
some,
that's bizarre.
we call this ex-boyfriend day today because
The
not
revenge
only-
of the exes.
Revenge of the
Yeah.
exes. What did you think of Swetnick's ex-boyfriend and the allegations that he made? And he actually had a restraining order against her.
There was two ex-boyfriends, right?
Yeah.
The ex-boyfriend in Florida that had the restraining order, and then the other one, which was really kind of sad. I mean, here's the thing about that, plus Dr. Ford's ex-boyfriend's letter. We really haven't corroborated these things. They're under oath, but then so was Julie Swetnick's affidavit, right? I mean, and it was ridiculous. It was self-contradictory right from the beginning. We haven't really corroborated any of this stuff, and I think we should be careful about proceeding down these paths without having to make sure that we've got corroboration. But that's a lesson that we should have been applying all along, including to Dr. Ford and to Deborah Ramirez and all the rest of the people who were coming out of the woodwork to make wild allegations without any evidence whatsoever.
He is Ed Morrissey, senior editor for HotAir.com and a columnist for The Week. Ed, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.